So I'm going to open up with my story, and it's entitled, Shoes Away. It was a crystal clear day. I mean, it was so clear you could see the sun shimmering off the water for miles in front of you. The smell of sea salt was all around me. I mean, I was in paradise. This should have been my favorite vacation ever. Trouble was, I was drowning. Let's back up. So when I was 8 years old, at least I think it was about 8 years old, it would have been the summer of 1996, and I had the opportunity to go to the Atlantic Ocean with my father, my stepmother, my stepbrother, and my stepsister. Because my stepsister was a dancer, and she got to do competitions that would take her all across the East Coast. Hello. And on this night, or on this vacation, we were going to, I believe, somewhere outside of Atlanta, Georgia. The competition was to take place in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were going to stay on the ocean in the meantime. And I was really excited because I loved swimming. I loved the ocean, and I loved the idea of getting to just spend my days in the sun, my afternoons in the water, and then my evenings watching my sister and all these other random people dance, which was actually pretty fun. I even remember the song that sticks out to me most, and again, I was 8 years old, but the song that sticks out to me most is a tap number to Yakety Yak, Don't Talk Back. Anybody remember that song? Yeah, it's a great song. So one day, we were going down to the beach, and the day before we had complained about how our feet were constantly being burned on the hot sand. So my stepmother, she and I had a pretty contentious relationship, she bought all of us, me, my stepsister, and my stepbrother, swim shoes. And it did come with a warning. As she handed them over, she said, "You make sure you do not lose these swim shoes." Now, I was doing everything I could on this vacation to try and win the respect and admiration of my stepmother because she hated me. I must have reminded her too much of my own mother. So she went out of her way to make sure I knew she did not like me. So this trip, I was bound and determined to make sure that I would win her affection. So I was not going to lose these darn swim shoes. Well, that day we went swimming. And I was having a good time. I was floating on my back, looking up at the sun, looking down because the water was cerulean and just so clear you could see all the way to the bottom. And I was watching as my feet were flipping back and forth, back and forth. And then I recognized that I had floated so far away that I could no longer yell to my dad, to my stepsister, to my stepbrother. So I decided to swim back. And as I started to kick, a little bit of a current caught my left swim shoe and it flew off. Well, now I was panicking a little bit because that was the swim shoe I was not supposed to lose. That was the swim shoe I was not supposed to lose. So I began doing my best. I'm just gonna put this down. It's honestly very hard to tell a story with a microphone in your hand. Anyways, I was bound and determined not to lose this shoe. So I grasped for it, and it was just out of my clutches, and it seemed to float away, kind of like a fish. It was swimming. So I kept swimming as fast as I could, reaching for it, but every time I went to grab it, I would even sometimes touch it, but then it would just be out of my grasp. Well, I continued and went further and further, every time trying to grab this darn swim shoe, but to no avail. So I'm about to turn around and swim back when I try one last time to grab this swim shoe because I can see how close it is in front of me. And I reach out when all of a sudden, a wave comes crashing down on me. I come flying up, sputtering, coughing, my mouth now full of salt water. And I'm coughing up a lung, and I look at the seashore and realize, oh crap, I am far away. So I start swimming as fast as I can back to the shore. But I'm not going anywhere. At this point, the current is taking me out every time I move in. So I'm just basically going back and forth, and I start to see these tiny specks on the horizon. All these people on the beach are pointing and shouting in my direction. And then I see the lifeguard. He's standing on top of his lookout with binoculars. Some little figure that looks like my dad is right next to his lookout, yelling up at him. Next thing I know, I hear a shrill whistle. And everybody in the water gets out. Now I'm thinking, oh no, I can't get out. What am I supposed to do? So I start swimming faster and faster, and the waves start crashing down on me. And that's when I realized that I was drowning. And that whistle was for me, because I was the one that needed saved. So it took the lifeguard and my dad about 5 minutes maybe to get out there. It took a while. I was treading water, but I didn't seem to be going any further back. And they threw me a buoy, and I was able to be rescued, thankfully, because if I drowned, I wouldn't be here right now. And as we went back into the hotel, you know, I was in tears, because that was, first of all, a really traumatic experience, but then also I had lost the swim shoe. And I told my dad about it, and how Kim, my stepmom, was going to be really upset. And he said, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is you're okay and you're safe. Well, that made me feel better. But you know, we go up to the room, and I've got my stepbrother and stepsister, who are what, 9 and 7, who are like, how dare you? Now we just lost 2 hours of swim time. And I've got my stepmom, who once my dad was in the bathroom, came up to me and sat down right in front of me. And you know, at first she said, hey, I am glad you're okay. But she said, where's your swim shoe? And I said, well, I lost it. And she said, what did I tell you? And then I started crying, you know, the tears were welling up in my eyes. And I was like, you told me not to lose my swim shoe. She said, that's right. That is what I told you. Remember that. And she walked away. And more than the traumatic experience of the almost drowning, that was crushing. Because that was the moment I knew that my stepmom and I were never going to get along. She was never going to love me in the way that I was hoping she would. And that was really the jaws of defeat.